Hey everyone, it's Danielle, welcoming you back to another CaliFaces video. Chad MacDonald was 17 years old when police detectives fit him with a hidden wiretap and sent him into a drug dealer's meth house to buy drugs. 6 weeks later, he was found dead in an alley. His killers said that he was a snitch who needed to be taught a lesson. His mother said that he was a good kid who got used by the police. And the police said that none of it was their fault. But in the end, only one of them was right. Chad MacDonald Jr. was born on April 7, 1980. While still a baby, his father died in a drunk driving accident. Soon after, his mother remarried and had 2 more sons. Chad and his family lived in a quiet neighborhood located in Yorba Linda, California, a suburban city 40 miles outside of Los Angeles. As a kid, Chad played Little League baseball, soccer, and tennis. But as he got older and entered high school, he began using drugs, crystal meth in particular. And along with using meth, he started selling it too. And before long, Chad became known around his city as the guy to call if you wanted to buy some. But acting as both a drug dealer and a drug user didn't go well for Chad. And in January of 1998, he was pulled over with 11 grams of meth and arrested for possessing and transporting methamphetamine. Chad was taken to the police station and interviewed for hours before his mother was called to pick him up. When Chad's mother, Cindy MacDonald, arrived at the police station to pick up her son, she was told by the police that the only way she could take Chad home was if she signed a waiver that permitted him to work as a police informant. Police told Cindy and Chad that his work as an informant would in exchange get his charges dropped, but that if he declined, or she chose not to sign the waiver, Chad would be charged for selling meth and sent to jail, they said, for a long time. Chad and his mother agreed to do it. Cindy MacDonald would later say that she signed the waiver under duress and was unaware of what she was actually signing. And by signing, she gave permission that day for the police department to enlist Chad as a drug informant. And in California at that time, there were no laws prohibiting minors from being used as police informants, and juveniles were often recruited for sting operations that involved drugs and alcohol. In the weeks that followed Chad's arrest, police supervised him on multiple drug buys from drug dealers in Yorba Linda and the neighboring city of Brea. During one drug buy, the police concealed a wire inside of a pager that was attached to Chad's hip. Chad was sent into a suspected drug house where he bought drugs from a woman who was an alleged drug dealer. A few days later, the house was raided. No arrests were made, but the woman, who Chad bought the drugs from, figured out that he was the one who had set her up. And she told everybody, saying that Chad was a narc who was cooperating with the police. Chad denied the accusations, but continued on as an informant, telling his friends that he just needed one more bust for the police, big enough so that they would drop the charges against him. But before that could happen, Chad was pulled over again by the police, and again found in possession of meth. Chad attempted to pass the meth off as a purchase from a drug dealer that he was on his way to tell the police about. But the officers suspected that Chad had actually purchased the meth for his own use. Chad was later told that he was being dropped as a police informant and would be formally charged with drug possession. All the events that followed this second arrest were later told very differently depending on who was telling them. According to Chad's mother and friends, Chad was still feeling pressured from the police when he went to another drug dealer's home in Norwalk, California, to arrange one last drug deal. A deal so big, he told his friends, it would get the police off his back for good. But according to an official statement by the police, Chad walked into that drug house on his own doing and had not been working as an informant for 2 weeks. Either way, on March 1st, 1998, 17-year-old Chad entered the home with 3 drug dealers, and he brought his 15-year-old girlfriend with him. In a statement, Chad's girlfriend said her, Chad, and the 3 drug dealers, Michael Martinez, Florence Noriega, and Jose Ibarra, spent the whole day in the house smoking meth. Then, an argument started, and Florence Noriega began accusing Chad of being a snitch. Chad and his girlfriend were robbed and forced to remove all their clothes to check for wires. Michael Martinez and Jose Ibarra then wrapped a rope around Chad's neck, beat him, and then strangled him to death. His body was found 2 days later in an alley in South Los Angeles. Chad's girlfriend was beat, raped, shot in the head, and left by the side of the road. But she survived. After the murder, Michael Martinez, Florence Noriega, and Jose Ibarra all went on the run. Because of a police tip, Martinez and Noriega were found 3 days later hiding in a Las Vegas hotel room. Jose Ibarra was caught soon after. At their trials, none of them denied killing Chad, but they said they didn't mean to do it, claiming that they had only wanted to teach him a lesson for being a snitch. But after Chad's girlfriend testified, all 3 were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Cindy MacDonald filed a $10 million wrongful death lawsuit against the Brea and Yorba Linda Police Department, citing that police officers had failed to protect her son. She acknowledged that Chad was wrong to get involved with drugs, but claimed the officers used him as an informant, which led to him being labeled a snitch and eventually killed. 2 years later, the lawsuit was settled for $1 million, after a judge concluded that police were not liable since Cindy MacDonald had signed the waiver consenting to Chad's work as an informant. But what the lawsuit did was bring attention to the use of juvenile informants in California. And the same year Chad was killed, California passed a bill called Chad's Law, which now prohibits the use of child informants 12 years and younger, and requires a judge's approval before police can recruit teenagers 13 to 17 as informants. Chad's Law also prohibits law enforcement and prosecutors from using scare tactics to enlist underage informants, such as telling Chad and his mother that he was facing a long prison term if he didn't cooperate. In a statement, Cindy MacDonald said that she hoped Chad's Law would remind police departments that a child's life is more important than arresting drug dealers.